Adventure calls. Layers of monstrous enemies have sprung up all over the countryside. As heroes, your duty is clear. Conquer every dungeon, defeat every foe, and overcome every peril. As is tradition, you'll enter each dungeon with only the simplest equipment and gather better loot as you delve. Hello gamers, this is Mark from the SoloBot channel, and today I'll be taking you on a playthrough of One Deck Dungeon, Forest of Shadows. One Deck Dungeon is a dice-chucking dungeon crawl where you will level up and gain items, skills, and potions as you make your way through the 3 levels of the dungeon on your way to the main boss. Defeat the boss and you win, but if your hero runs out of health, you will lose. To set up for the game, you will start by selecting a hero, and here you can see we've chosen the Hunter for this game. You also pick a basic potion, which goes under the card, and you pick a boss. Today we'll be fighting the Mud Golem. And after you select the boss, you will put the boss card flipped over under the turn reference card, and we will get to what that means a little bit later. So I'll go through the rules in a lot more detail as we go through each step of the game, but I will start with some of the basic concepts of the game. You'll see on your hero card, you have this side, which are called your items. You'll notice that they match the colors of the dice, and they will let you know how many dice you get to roll for each type of encounter. And so there's going to be 2 types of encounters that we'll find through the dungeon in this game: combat encounters and peril encounters. So as we go through each one, I'll let you know how we go through it. Each one acts a little bit different. We'll get to the specific rules as we go. After you go through an encounter, whether you are completely successful or whether you have to suffer some kind of consequences, you will be able to gain some loot, and the loot will be different on either card. There's loot items that will add extra dice or possibly health. There's some skills that will go down here that gives you extra abilities during combat or peril encounters. There's the opportunity to gain more potions, and there's also the opportunity to gain experience points, because obviously you want to level up as you go through the dungeon. Over here you can see on the level card, this is level 1. This will tell you how many extra items you can have, how many extra skills you can have, and any bonuses that you might gain, and how much experience it takes to level up. So when you start the game, you start off with a single potion. The white dots symbolize potion, the red hearts symbolize damage, and the green circles symbolize poison. So when you start, you will shuffle up the deck. And here we go. So the beginning of every turn, you always have to, what they call passing time. You spend, they show 2 hourglasses there, and that is just simply each hourglass is a single discard. So you start off by discarding 2 cards. And then on your very first turn, since this is where you will have all of the doors to the dungeon that you can explore. There are no doors here, obviously. So the first thing you'll have to do is an explore action. And what you do there is you place face down cards until there are a total of 4 cards in the play area. So on the first turn of the game, you'll simply place 4 face down cards. And that ends the first turn. So now we start a second turn, and now once again, we will have the 2 discards. And now, since there aren't any open doors, the next step is to pick a door to explore. And so we'll start off with this one. And this is a peril card. You'll notice on this one, you'll see the 2 different boxes here. And in a peril card, you will choose one of the 2 options to try and defeat the peril. And in this case, the first one is a panther. You try and sneak by, or you can try and charm it. And the boxes will let you know what type of dice you can roll. So for a peril encounter, you'll only get to roll 1 color of dice to try and defeat the card. So in this case, and a rectangular box, in this case, means that you can place any number of dice that add up to this number or greater to defeat it. The other thing that you may notice on a peril encounter, you have the dungeon card here, and this side over here is the peril encounter requirements, and this side is the combat encounter requirements. So these will be in addition to any requirements on the card. And also in the Mudlands, the level 1 is Sludge, and it says you will spend an hourglass, you'll discard a card when you gain an item as loot. So that's something that would happen after the encounter, and it's something that you'll just have to do as you go through the game. So now we've opened the door. and we can choose to encounter it, or we can choose to flee. In this case, the 8, and we have 3 red dice, so I think it's something that we could probably handle. So the steps of the encounter is you choose what you're going to encounter. In this case, we have a peril, and we've chosen to encounter it. Next step is you get to choose whether or not you'll use your heroic feat. Not every character has one, but the hunter does have one. And the heroic feat here is spend an hourglass, so discard a card, in order to place a black 4 on the card, or you can discard 3 cards to place a black 6. So now let's talk about what the different dice are. Each die represents a different type that you'll roll. The black dice are wild, so they can represent any color of dice. Also, one other thing to note, that as we're going through, they won't come into play in a peril card, but in the combat cards. At any point, you can discard 2 dice and to create a wild dice, and that wild dice will be the lower of the 2 values of the cards. Okay, so let's go back to the heroic feat. So in this case, I can choose to spend, discard 1 card, and it lets me place a wild 4 anywhere. So in this case, since we're going to have to deal with this as part of the peril, and also you'll note that the shield, there's a green shield on this card. This means that these boxes must be filled before any other boxes can be filled. In this case, the square boxes can only be filled and completed with a single die, while the rectangular ones, as we said before, can be filled by multiple dice. Okay, so that's the heroic step. Now we gather our dice. In this case, we're going by the sneak by, which is the red dice, and so we have 3 symbols there, so we get to roll 3 red dice. Okay, that's our roll. So the next step is to, we can use any skills or potions that we might want. In this case, this skill shows just the combat symbol. It does not show the green trap symbol, so this is only usable during a combat encounter, so not in this case. But since all we need to do is add up 3 red dice to 8 or higher, we have 11 here, so we are able to cover up the boxes, and we were completely successful. So we do not have to suffer any consequences. If you end the dice placement with any boxes uncovered, you must suffer the consequences that are shown in those boxes. So successful here. So now once we're done, we get to claim the loot. So in this case, you'll notice that the sneak by points to item. So the only choice from a loot standpoint is we can choose the item, which would add another red die, but you're always allowed to choose the experience points option on here. Since we have plenty of red dice, at this point, I think we'll just choose the experience point option. So what you can do is you can place the card sideways like that, and it shows you have 2 experience points. You need 6 to level up, so we still have a little bit of ways to go there. And that ends the first turn. So now we go to the next turn. Again, discard 2 cards. Now we'll open another door, see if we want to counter it. So we have a moss golem. So in this case, this is a combat encounter if we choose to encounter it. This creature has the special ability Thick Armor, so you have to discard 2 cards if you ever place a wild on this card. So now we can take a look at what we might be in for if we tried this one. We would have to fill a box with yellow dice adding up to 10. We'd have to fill a red 4, a red 5, a red 6, and a blue 6. Pretty tough monster. I don't think that we're at a high enough level, so one option we have after we open a door is we can flee the encounter. We can kind of avoid the moss golem, and we don't pay any penalty. So I think we will do that, and that would end the turn. So we'll go to the next turn, discard another 2 cards, and let's open a door and see if we can find another. Now here we have another peril, Bramble Field. So once again, we have 2 choices. If we choose to encounter it, we can choose this one, Clear a Path, which is yellow dice, or Run Through, which is red dice. Obviously, we have the same number of yellow and red dice, 3 and 3. So Clear a Path would seem to be the easier choice. Although it does have, you'll notice that this does have a requirement that we would have to discard 2 cards to go through it. So I think we'll try. We'll try the Bramble Field. So once again, we'll choose to encounter that. We choose a heroic feat. In this case, I think we'll still, because we have this box. Now, this box is does not have a color, it's just gray. So this can be covered by any color die, which also include a wild die. So we'll discard a card to use a heroic feat. Once again, we get a wild 4, put it on there, and we covered that up. And I think we'll clear a path, so we'll have to discard 2 cards. And we get our 3 yellow dice from here, and we'll roll and see if we can get 7 or higher. And we were successful. So once again, we cover those boxes up. Now in a peril, you only have to choose one, so the fact that we didn't do the red means that we don't have to suffer those consequences. So no uncovered boxes, no consequences. Once again, we get to choose. In this case, they didn't have a, they weren't specific on what we would have to choose as a reward. So we can choose item, a skill, or experience points. In this case, we have a balanced attack where you would discard 2 yellow dice during a combat encounter. You get to roll a yellow, red, and a blue, and increase one of them by 1. That seems like a pretty good ability, so I think we will take that skill, and to note that you have it, you place it under your card, like this. And as level 1, we're allowed 2 skills, so we could still get 1 more in the future. Okay, so that ends that turn, so let's go to the next turn. Pass time, discard 2 cards, one door left to explore. And we have a Knoll. So I think, why don't we try and go ahead and do this combat encounter. So he has the ability of Howl. So we cannot place, in this case, we cannot place wild on dungeon challenge boxes. So these are the dungeon challenge boxes. So in this case, it's a combat encounter. So we would be looking at this side. And this case is a yellow 4 and a yellow 5. So a little bit more difficult. But I think we can go ahead and try this one. First step, again, is the heroic feat. I think once again, we'll just discard a single card to get a wild 4. Now we get to choose where we would want to put this on the card. I think since we're only rolling 3 yellow dice and we have this potential yellow ability by discarding 2, I think we'll cover up this one shield because we're going to have to do that first anyway. So now in a combat encounter, the difference is that you get to roll all of the dice that you have shown on your card. So in this case, we get 3 yellow, 3 red, and a blue. Now, even though there are no blues on this card or in this dungeon box, there still may be a possibility of using a blue by discarding it to turn 2 dice into a wild. So we gather our dice, we'll roll, and then we'll see how we do. Okay, so you'll remember that the first things we need to deal with is we need to at some point deal with this red 4 box, or we can't place any other dice. And then we also have these 2 dice here. So I think what we can look at doing is, why don't we try and, well, we also have this special ability, the Wolf Companion, that allows us to increase a non-wild die by 2. So in this case, since we have that red 4, we could take this red 2, increase it by 2 to make it a 4. So now we're able to cover that one up, which frees up the other ones, and the 6 and a 2 would cover that box up. Now I think the question is, do we want to try and use the balanced attack or not? We still have deal with a rectangular box of 7. We're allowed to use multiple dice, and a 4 and a 5 single box. Now the consequences on there, we've talked about before, the hourglass is just simply discarding a card. The heart would be taking a damage, and this the drop is poison, and we'd have to take a poison counter, which will come into play later. So I think we can, because we have a blue 5, I think we'll try and chance it. We'll discard 2 yellow dice. That means we get to roll a yellow, a red, and a blue, and maybe we'll get to show how the converting into a wild die works. Okay, a pretty good roll, and then we get to increase one of these die by 1. So I think we can increase this blue die from a 4 to a 5. Okay. Now what can we do with the rest of the dice? So we can take, right, we need 2 dice. Unfortunately, we need 2 dice to cover this one up. So that covers that. Now we can take any of the dice, we could take these 2 dice, discard them, and we would get the lower value, which is a 5, as a wild die. So we remove these 2, and we get a wild 5, and then we can simply place that on this box over here. So we covered almost all of them up. We still had 1 box left over that just has an hourglass, so just simply discarding a card, not too bad. And we've completed the encounter. So we clear the card. Now we get to choose our reward. So we have either add an item, which would give us an extra yellow die, add a skill relative to the blue dice, or we can get XP. I think we only have 1 blue dice, so I think we're going to look for more blue dice for our items. So why don't we take this as XP? That'll allow us pretty soon to level up. Okay, I think we still don't want to fight the Moss Golem, so I think we start the next turn. We'll discard 2 cards, and I think we're going to explore. So now we have a single door out. Now we would add up, and we would replace the other 3. So until we got to 4. So 2, 3, 4 slots are full, and that is the end of the explore. Now, typically when you do an explore action, you would resist poison. So if you had any poison counters on your card, you would then need to roll a die and roll a number higher than the number of poison counters on your card, and you would get to add to that die roll any green symbols on the card. So we don't have any poison counters, so we don't have to worry about that yet. So we'll get back to that if we ever have to resist poison. So that was the end of that turn. So the next turn starts again. Discard 2 cards. And let's open this door. Okay, we have another peril encounter. And I think, once again, this one we could possibly gain a skill, we could possibly gain experience points, so why don't we go ahead and try this one. Since we only have 1 blue die, we're probably not going to do the disarm with this blue. We'll probably try and remove the crystal. So once again, we start with the heroic feat. Since we still have that requirement, we will discard a card. Gives us a wild 4. Place it there. We still have 3 yellow dice, so we go ahead and roll the yellow dice. Okay, another good roll. Adds up to 12, which is definitely more than 9. So we were able to cover that box. So no empty boxes, no consequences for this this encounter. And since the only allowable thing is to pick this ability, I think we will actually use the experience points. Put it under here. That gives us 6 total experience points, and now we're able to level up. So when you level up, you take whatever cards that you've gained, and they go out of play. You flip to the next level card here, level 2. You'll notice now our number of items we're allowed to have increases, the number of skills we're allowed to have increases. We gain a potion, so the white dots again are potions. And anytime you gain a potion, either through leveling up or if you find a potion as a skill, you would be allowed to heal a damage or a poison. We don't have either, so we don't gain that benefit. The next thing is you'll notice that there is an encounter bonus. So every future encounter, now that we're level 1, we would get to roll a wild die. So that's a good benefit there. Okay, so that's the end of that turn. So we'll go to the next turn. Once again, discard 2 cards. Open the door. So a Spikealon. So looking at that, we have quite a bit of yellow dice and red dice here. But this is the blue we were looking for, so I think we're going to go ahead and try and battle them. So we collect our dice here, plus remember we get a black dice, and we do get to choose our heroic feat. So we can decide what we might want to try for that. I think we will still... Actually, I think why don't we try the higher powered one. So we discard 3 cards. We get a 6, so... we cover that one up there since that is a damage. You'll notice he has an ability spikes. We'll suffer poison if we place a die with a value 5 on this particular card. So something to keep in mind as we go. All right, now we gather up our dice. We roll them. Oh, it looks like a pretty bad roll this time. We might be in a little bit of trouble here. So I think we will kind of go in and use our abilities. So first one is you can increase a non... Why don't we wait until we get the other die? So I think if we go with the balanced attack first, so we'll discard 2 of these kind of low yellow dice. We'll pick a yellow, red, and blue. We'll get to roll those, and then we'll get to increase one of them by 1. Okay, still not great. We don't have to deal with any blues, so we don't have to worry too much about the blues. We get to increase one of these by 1, so why don't we increase the 4 to a 5 since we'll have to put it on that card. We can increase a non-wild die by 2. So let's see where it's going to be our best. Billy, we're going to probably end up taking some damage here, it looks like. Why don't we increase this one by 2. So we have a 4. So now let's start placing our dice out. So we get to cover that one up. And unfortunately, that's really, we get to cover that one up. So that's all we get to do. And then we do have spikes still, so we have to take a poison from that. So we have a lot of uncovered ones on this one. So we'll go through. So that 4, we take 1 damage from that. Not having that. Well, actually, we can do the 3. So we can discard a red and a blue 3 to create a wild 3. So we actually do cover that. So that's nice. This one over here, we have to discard a card. The 5, we also discard a card, and we take another poison token. So pretty tough turn right there. Now that we've finished that, we suffer the consequences. We still do, even though we didn't cover up all the boxes, we do get to claim the loot. So like we said, we will add that item where we get an extra blue die, so we place it over there. Hopefully we don't have too many more turns like that. I don't know that our hero can survive a lot of those. Now one other thing we can do, possibly in the future, is we can use the potions. Like I said, anytime you use a potion, you would heal a poison or a damage. In this case, the potion that we have is we could use a potion to increase 2 dice by 1 each. So we'll see if we have come across a time to use that. Okay, we discard 2, open up the last door and see what's back there. We have a Thorn Splitter. Okay, so I think once again we're looking at this. We have 2 options, strike down or evade the thorns. We have the same number of yellow and red dice, 3, so I think we're probably going to go with try the strike down. So the strike down ability requires that we discard a card. And once again we go to our heroic feat. Since we still have that, we will add that to gain a wild 4. And we will gather up our 3 yellow dice and try and roll 9. And yes, we were successful. So we add those. That covers up that box. So all boxes are covered, so no consequences from this battle. And we get to choose whether we can choose to get a item or a skill. It's not a bad skill, but it's only good for combat. So just in case we have more perils, why don't we increase our pool of yellow dice by taking it as an item. I believe I may have missed this before, but the dungeon level is sludge here, so I have to spend one as when I get item as loot, since I'll go ahead and spend the second one from before. Now the next now the turn's over, so next turn it will discard 2 cards. And here we're exploring, so we're going to have to deal with the resist poison, but we only have 1 more card in the deck where we reach the stairs. We'll get to that in a minute. So why don't we go ahead and try and resist poison. So we have 2 poison counters, but we do have an open door with a green leaf here. So we have to roll with 1 die, plus 1, it has to be greater than 2 to be successful. And we were. So when you're successful with resist poison, you simply remove 1 poison counter from the hero. If you fail the resist poison step, you also get to remove a poison counter, but then you will take 2 damage. So we have the option here. So we still get to open the door to see what's there. And then we get to decide whether we want to try and deal with the peril, or if we want to simply go down the stairs. Now the one thing with the stairs is, if you have the stairs open, every time you would discard a card, if you have an hourglass, you put a damage counter on the stairs. Once you get to 3 damage counters, you remove 2 of them, and then 1 of them goes onto your hero card. So there is always a danger of that. But we just picked up a 4th yellow die, so I think we have a pretty good shot at this one. We already have the balanced attack, but we could pick up a red die or we could pick up some XP. And since we're going to go to level 2 where it'll get harder, why don't we take advantage of this being the last level 1 card. So once again, we'll take a chance. We'll go with our spend a card to get a wild 4. Once again, place it on here. Now we get 4 dice to try and roll a 10 or higher. And we were successful, so the 4 dice, so you just need 3. Gets us a 10, no open boxes, so no consequences. And I think for our 3rd skill, why don't we pick up our 4th red die. So now, or for items I mean. And then once again, we spend a hourglass when we gain an item as loot. That's only 2. We didn't get a 3, so we don't take any damage for it. So now we can decide that unless we wanted to try and take more damage to fight the Moss Golem, we will go down to level 2 of the dungeon. So you take the card, you uncover another level. Now, whenever we fight a peril, we will have to cover both of these boxes as part of the requirements. And the same with a combat. Now we have an extra box. Here we have a 4 with a shield, so a little bit more difficult. But I think we can make our way through it. So now we take the deck, shuffle the deck up as we get on to level 2. And we start again, going through the deck. Okay, just like the same, start of every turn, discard 2 cards, and we're going to explore. And we still have a poison counter, so we still have to resist poison. There is a chance that we fail. We'd have to roll a 1. Luckily, we did not roll a 1, so we rolled a 2. So now we're able to get rid of the last poison card. Okay, next turn, discard 2 cards. And we open a door. A Great Spirit, so we have an opportunity here. We can, again, yellow or blue. Now we have a lot more yellow dice, but we do have more requirements. But I think we will encounter it, and we will try the struggle-free option. So in this case, I think we will still just use the single discard to get a wild 4 placed on that card. That takes care of that requirement. And now we roll our 4 yellow dice. Oh, a pretty bad roll, unfortunately. We wouldn't be able to cover any boxes, but we do have a potion that we can use. So right now we have 9, so we just need 1 more. So I think increasing 2 dice by 1 each, and it is allowed to be used during a combat or a peril encounter. So we will drink the potion, increase 2 die by 1 each. So we'll increase the 4 to a 5, and we just increase the 2 to a 3. So we will choose to cover this box. Unfortunately, we will leave that box uncovered, so we are forced to take a damage and discard a card. But now that the encounter is over, we do get to pick up the card and choose our loot from it. I think we will take this as XP. Work our way up towards, now to get to level 3 we need 8 XP. So start from there, start of the turn, discard 2 cards. Open this door, see what we have there. A rope bridge. Okay. So we could try and sprint across. There is kind of risky. You could end up with 3 damage there, which would take us out. Although we do have a potion left that would still save us. So I think we'll try and sprint across the rope bridge. We'll see how that does. Once again, we'll, for the heroic feat, discard a card, get a wild 4, place it there, and hope that we roll well here. Okay roll. The potion will not help us cover all the boxes, so I think we will take all of these and cover up that bottom one so we don't take the 3 damage. We still have that one. Unfortunately, we have that one left. Oh, I forgot. I keep forgetting. We actually have as part of our encounter bonus, I haven't been doing this, you get to roll one of those, which unfortunately, I guess it could help us, but to just for a single, I think we will at this point save that potion for now. So that one unfortunately didn't help us. We do suffer the consequences of one and that. So now we get to choose our reward for this. I think we will take this skill. This is discard 2 red dice. You get to roll 3 red dice, and then you discard one of them. But that is able to be used in a combat or a peril encounter. So a little more flexibility with that one. The next turn, discard 2 cards. Open the door. A Razor Bark. So you'll notice here we have ability of the Razor Bark. If we choose to encounter him, we will have to exile a black and a yellow die. And exile means it is gone from the game for good. So something that we have to take into account. Also, if you look at kind of the boxes that we're looking at, there's a blue rectangular box that requires 15. We only have 2 blue dice. So obviously we wouldn't be able to do it with those 2. We'd have to get a good roll with our wild die. So I think for now we'll flee the Razor Bark. Maybe another time we'll try and deal with him. Open up the last door. So back to the Moss Golem. I think we remember seeing him before. Maybe we think we have a better chance of dealing with him now. He still seems pretty tough. I think since we're a little bit damaged, I think maybe we'll flee him for now and wait till we get a little bit stronger. So fleeing the encounter ends the turn. So next turn we discard 2, and then we'll do an Explore. So we will fill up the grid with a total of 4 doors. So we add 2 more. We don't have any poison, so we don't have to go through the resist poison step. So that ends the turn. Next turn, discard 2 cards. And let's open up the door. Okay, a Bramblefield. So I think a little bit easier version, and we have a potential potion reward. So I think that's a good one to go after. So I think again, we have the 2 options here. This one obviously the easier of the 2. So I think we will choose that one. Again, the Heroic Feat will still go with a single version. We get the Wild 4 to place there. Don't forget my counter bonus now. So we get 4 yellow dice plus a wild die to roll. Oh, a tough roll there. Although I think we do have... No, I don't know that that's going to get us there. That's unfortunate. We're going to take another bit of damage. So since we don't have any 4s, we can't get a die up to a 5. And none of these abilities allow us to move that up. So we're really going to have to just cover that up. We will have to discard a card, take another damage. So we're at 4 damage and we only have 5 health. So we do need to be careful about that. So we do get to, although one benefit is, I think at this point, I think because we're so low, we will have to take it as a potion. So now we have another potion ability. So we gain a potion and we get the healing effect. Anytime you gain or use a potion, you get the healing effect. So not too bad, pretty helpful there. So let's move on to the next turn. Discard 2, open the last door. So a Gnoll. I think we fought one of those earlier. Again, the special abilities, you cannot place wild dice on dungeon challenge boxes. So, but we do have a potential here. We could ignore all shields during this encounter if we run into trouble. So I think we'll try the Gnoll and see how we do. So I think what we can do is we will once again just use the single discard for the heroic feat. Grab that, we will place it there, so we just get that out of the way. We gather our dice, we get 4 yellow, 4 red, 2 blue, and a black. So our dice pool is getting a little bit bigger. And we have a lot of abilities that we can use during combat encounters, so that is a good sign. Okay, so not a bad roll. We can take a look and see what we have going here. So these would allow us to cover up the red boxes. I think we don't need to use any of our special abilities, luckily. So we can cover up the 5 and the 4 with this, the 4 with this, the wild to complete that, the 4 there, and that. So pretty successful. No empty boxes, no consequences on this one. So we clear the boxes off, and then we get to choose our reward for this one. So I think we could possibly get a potion, but I think we want to try and get to leveling up a little bit faster. So we add the 2 XP, so now we're up to 5 towards our 8. I don't think we're looking to do battle with any of these guys yet, so I think we're going to explore on this turn. So we discard 2 cards, fill back up the doors, ends that turn. We're getting close to the end of the deck, so we're going to go down to level 3 pretty soon. Let's see what we can find behind one of these doors. Okay, a Thorn Splitter. So I think we can definitely try and take this one on. Now the red dice, because we have one ability that allows one skill that we can use with red dice, that might be a little bit better there, but still quite a bit less for the that roll. So I think we'll try the strike down. Try strike down and see. Maybe a little bit dangerous because we're running out of cards, but we'll do that. So strike down first. We discard 1 card for that. We go to our heroic feat, discard another card, gives us a wild 4. Place it there as usual. Gather our dice. So 4 yellow, 1 black. Okay, pretty good roll. So that 5 will go to there. Simply 2 dice to cover that 9, and no empty boxes, so no consequences. And I think since right now this would give us 3 XP, I think it'd be a good time to level up. So take these cards out of play, flip to level 3. We get another potion, which also gives us a remove 1 damage. We still only get 1 black die encounter bonus. We do get up to 5 items and up to 4 skills. And to get to level 4, we'll take 10 experience points this time. Now it's the end of the turn. The stairs are available to us, so I think we will take them down to level 3. So we slide this card up. Now we have extra boxes that we have to deal with. And now the Rotten Depths. So the ability of the 3rd level of dungeon is if an encounter's consequences include poison, then you have to also discard 2 cards. So kind of a way to run through the deck faster, ends up getting us over to the boss quicker, which one thing you want to try and do is build up your items and your skills for the boss battle. So that's where the discarding cards is a negative for the players. So start with level 3, start of the turn. Once again, discard 2 cards, explore. We've been fortunate enough not to have too much poison on our our hero. So again, we don't have to resist poison. Next turn, discard 2 cards. And let's see what we find. A Trickster. So if we chose to battle him, Poison Stab, you convert a poison on a hero to a damage. Luckily, we do not have any poison, so we wouldn't have to deal with that. The numbers are pretty low, but there's quite a few of them. We only have 2 blue dice, and we have to deal with a lot of blues over here, and even more blues over here. So I think the Trickster is better suited just to a character that has a lot more magic or blue dice in their possession. So I think we will flee him for now. So next turn, discard 2 cards, choose another door. So we have the Eye Shroom. And the ability for this one is skip the Heroic Feat step. Once again, a lot of blue on this card. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity not to have to deal with him, so I think we will flee him also. So we go to the next turn, discard a couple cards. The Goblin. Okay, so I think this one looks like it's a little more feasible. I think we can go ahead and try this one. We do have to deal with that. That is difficult. We're going to want to try and find some more blue dice if possible. But I think we'll go ahead and try him. So Pack Hunter, for each closed door, spend 1 hourglass to discard a card. So there's one closed door. So we discard 1 card. We still get our Heroic Feat step. I think in this case, we'll discard 1 card again. Gives us a wild 4. I think we'll put it on this card since it is a shield, and we don't want to be stuck not able to place other dice because we weren't able to place on that card. So once again, gather our dice. 4 yellow, 4 red, 2 blue, and a wild. Okay, it's like not too bad here. So we have a slew of special abilities we can use here if we need them. I think could increase a non-black die by 2. We'll see which ones we want to use. Why don't we... These 2 dice aren't that useful, so we'll use this barrage ability. So we'll discard 2 reds, and then we'll bring back 3 reds. We'll roll them down here and discard one of them. Obviously, we'll discard the lowest of the 3. So that gives us a few more numbers to play with. We can also do the same thing with the yellow at some point if we wanted. We could discard these 2. We have 4 yellow boxes we're looking to cover. We do need to improve our blues a little bit. We can convert some of these possibly into wild. So why don't we go ahead and, for a balanced attack, discard 2 yellows. We get 1 of each color, roll them. Increase one of them by 1. Oh, fairly poor roll, but it does increase the blue by 1 in this case, which will allow us to cover up, allow us to get to the 10 box. So kind of the thing we're looking for here is to try and cover up as many, definitely as many damage boxes as possible, and see if we can also at some point cover up anything that might have poison. So I think we still have our increase a non-black wild die by 2. I think we take the 4, turn it into a 6. Now we can start placing dice. So these would cover that. We get the 6 to cover that. The 5 to cover that. Bring the 4 there. There, and then a wild 4. So not too bad. We have 1 box left over. Just a simple discard. But otherwise a fairly successful encounter. So now we have more slots open for items and skills. So I think we will add another yellow die to our items. Okay, next turn. Discard 2 cards. See what's behind this door. A dire boar. So his special ability is charged. Dice may not be re-rolled or increased. Does not stop these abilities, but it would stop this ability, and it would stop our potion ability. So an interesting challenge there. I don't think we still want to deal with these, so I think we do want to deal with that just to clear it and get more cards available to us. So I think we will look at I think once again we'll just use the 1 discard heroic feat, get our wild 4, place it on the shield box to cover that one up. Once again, gather our dice pool. Ooh, a lot of 6s. Good to see. Good to see. So these 3 would nicely cover up 3 red boxes. So I think we are good on those. Start placing these now, then we can see what else we might want to and we still have all of our skills that we can still use, so I think we are oh yes, you can't use those. We can't re-roll them, we can't increase them. So I think we will just use, we cover up everything except for the 1 discard box. So again, not too bad. Clear the boxes. Oh, I forgot again that when you gain an item as loot, you discard a card. So we'll do that now from that last turn. So now we choose what we want from this one. So this one we could take a red die and turn it into a wild 4. We could add more yellow dice. Or we could try and, we only have allow for 1 more item, so maybe we'll try and find a blue item if possible. So why don't we take this skill there. Okay. Next turn, over to explore. So we fill up the board with 4 total doors. Again, no poison, so we don't have to go through the resist poison step. Next turn, discard 2 cards. Open the door. Oh, we have a trickster. We were worried about him, but we may have to try and go after him. A lot of shields, but we have a potion that will allow us to ignore those. May help with the red dice. So I think we'll go ahead and try the trickster here. Once again, we'll start with our heroic step. Again, we'll cover that shield up. Always good to not have at least that restriction on us. Now we are up to 5 yellow dice. We may have to try and convert some of the yellow dice, turn them into wild, or the red dice probably, since we don't have any red boxes on these. Okay. So let's see what we're looking at now. So these 2 could cover up those 2 boxes. We could cover up most of at least we could cover up the shields, which is what we obviously need to do first. We do have a lot of these still available to us. I think we can kind of plan just to see how we would do some of this. These would cover up those 2. So we could turn any of these 2 into that 2. So we're looking at that one is open and that one is open still. So why don't we exploit weakness? So we get rid of a red die, gain a wild 4. So that, along with these, would be able to cover up that 10, and then this 6 would be able to cover up that 6. So we're closer to what we need. I think we could take these, try and roll a little bit higher. I don't know if we really need to get this would cover up. So we're really looking at that. I think if we use our increase a non-wild die by 2, take this 4, turn it into a 6. I think we can end up with just losing a I forgot about that 4. We'll have to deal with that 4 somehow. How are we going to deal with that 4? Let me try the barrage. Discard 2 of those dice. Hope for a little higher dice. Okay, that's helpful. So we can turn these 2 into a wild 4. So that can go there. Put these on there. Cover these. Cover these. So we're just left with a single uncovered box. So we take a damage and discard a card. But we got what we were hoping for, and we added a blue die to our arsenal for when we get to the boss at the end. Okay, next turn, discard 2. Probably the last door we're going to open. We'll see what we find there. A Shadow Stalker. So here we already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can't get any more items. That would have been nice. We would have got an extra heal for that. We do have 3 skills, so we could use a skill possibly if we wanted to chance it with this one. We do have a lot of shields on this one that could there's an interesting ability though. I kind of do like the ability that we could possibly look at. That could be very important. So why don't we, I think, do we want to, I guess if we ignore those icons, we wouldn't have to actually pay any damage. So that's a pretty good one. So I think we'll go ahead and try the Shadow Stalker. And we'll start with our heroic step. We'll take care of that. Gather our dice. 5, 4, 3 blue now, and a wild. Okay. Take a look and see what we have. So we have some low yellow dice. So I think our balanced attack. Oh, we're going to have to deal with these rolls. So the Dark Aura. So spend a, for each 6 rolled, 1, 2, 3. Okay. We'll have to keep an eye on that. We might take some damage from that one, so we have to be careful with that. I do think we do need to do this to try and get ourselves in better position. So this is the balanced attack. Oh, 2 more. That's a little bit of a problem. So we do that. One of these off. We're probably going to have to spend some potions. Maybe we end up probably just spend 1 right away to ignore all of the shields. Makes this a little bit easier for us, I think. So we cover the blue box. Basically, we can kind of ignore the shield boxes since they don't have any consequences on them. I think we can convert these 2 red dice, discard them a 6 and a 5 to convert that to a wild 5. Discard the blue and red 4, convert that into 4. So the only boxes we have open are these 2 shield boxes, which do not have any consequences. So we completed the encounter with no more damage to us. So I think we will at least survive our way to the boss fight. So we do, in fact, get this ability. We'll put that under our skills. It's a good one. It says you can use another skill without paying for it. So you can roll extra dice. You can gain a wild 4. So now we've reached the stairs. We do have some damage on us. We only have 5 health, so we can only take 2 more damage, but we do have a couple potions left. So now we have made it to the boss fight. So on the back of the turn reference card, you can see the boss fight, and you flip this card over. And this shows you what we need to deal with. So we have a lot of boxes. We have some very large numbered boxes here that we have to deal with. So how the boss fight works is the same as a combat encounter. You still get your combat skills. The one thing you'll notice is that on the heroic feat, the opening shot, the skull has a red X to it. It means that you are not allowed to use the heroic feat during the boss fight. So what we'll do is we'll do the same thing. We'll roll our full pool of dice. We'll place them on the card. Any boxes we do not cover, we still, the same thing, will face a consequence. So here, these 2 top boxes, each, if we don't fill them, each cause 2 damage to us. The rest of these 4 each would cause 1. Then once you've finished filling, taking the consequences, then any boxes you covered up with skulls, you do that much damage to the boss. So these 3 are worth 1 damage to the boss each. These 2 are worth 3 each to the boss. The boss has 12 hit points. So obviously, at this point, if we're able to deal 12 damage to the boss before the boss gives us a total of 5 damage, then we will win. Okay, so we'll go through the rounds of the boss fight. So the first step is resist poison. And once again, we've been very fortunate this game. We do not have any poison counters on us, so we don't have to deal with resisting poison. And there's not going to be any poison that shows up while we're fighting. So the next thing is we gather up our dice pool. So this is where it's important to kind of get as much dice as you can. So we have 5 yellow, 4 red, 3 blue, and we still get the 1 wild encounter bonus. Okay, now let's allocate some of our dice. Not too great with the blues, but we may have some other dice we can use to take care of that. So remember, we have this transmute. We can use another skill without paying for it. So that would really be these 3 where you have to pay dice for those. I think what we'll start with is this balanced attack. So we'll get rid of... Oh, before we go, sorry. The ability of the Mud Golem. At the start of each round, exile 4 dice. So why don't we go ahead and do that now. So these dice will be put out of the game completely. So we take 2 blue, a yellow, and a black, and we will put those out of the game. That could come into play later because when you have to get rid of dice, you have to have dice that you're able to roll. So we'll still do the balanced attack. We get rid of the 2 yellow. We roll 1 of each color. Increase one of them by 1. We are good with those. Why don't we... We do want to get one of these up to 22. So why don't we, for now, we'll just increase the yellow one by 1. Over here we have a exploit weakness. Get rid of a yellow die, gain a wild 4. We still can increase any non-wild die by 2. Why don't we do that with one of the blue dice. We can cover up a blue. So we increase the 4 to a 6. We still have, we can do this ability, although our red dice are pretty good. Probably don't need to deal with that. I think we can, but we can go to using the transmute, so we can choose one of these skills without having to pay the cost of it. I don't know that are we close enough with the blue dice to get there? Probably not, with having to spend all the other dice. So why don't we do that one instead and try and maybe create some wild dice. So we're going to use barrage, so we get to roll 2, discard one of them. Doesn't matter, we'll discard that one. Now we can start placing the dice. Let's see where we get. So 15, we still need 7 more for that. Pretty likely we will take these 2 blues, discard them, turn them into a wild. So if we stack those up, that covers the 22. We take the 6, we cover that 6 up. Cover the 5. This prevents us from taking too much damage. Unfortunately, we're not going to have enough to cover that 22. Even if we took these, combined them to create a wild 4, we'd still only have 12. So, but not too bad. So we suffer the consequences. So we take 1 damage there, but we do get to deal damage back. So in this case, we covered all these boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 damage goes to the mud golem. So if we can have another turn like that and not take too much damage, we will defeat him. We still have 2 potions, so we may end up having to use those. Okay, so that was the end of that round. So now we move to the next round. Resist poison again. We don't have any poison, luckily. And now let's gather our dice and try this again. Okay, not as good. A lot of low numbers this time, unfortunately. So we probably start with the balance attack again. So we discard 2 yellows. We get to roll 1 of each color and increase one of their values by 1. Oh, not looking too good for this one. Wow, we might be in trouble here. Friends, we'll increase one of them by 1. We probably want to go to barrage. So discard 2 red dice, roll 3, get rid of one of them. So again, we'll probably just get rid of the 1 in this case. This one, exchange a 2 for a wild 4. Now we still have increase a non-wild die by 2, and we can still use this ability here. We have 2 potions, so we need to figure out a way to not take that much damage. So if we use 2 potions, we can take 3 damage without so how can we so the big important thing is to cover that 6 up. I think we probably need to use a transmute to we can either do one of the 2. So we have a blue 6, which covers that. We need 1 more, either red 5, or we need a blue 6, but we also need to lob enough damage at the mud golem to survive. Oh, we do have the aid, so we can increase a couple die by 1 each. I don't think the the reds won't necessarily help us because we have to convert 2 of those into other ones. So why don't we do, when we use our free transmute to use the balance attack, then we get to increase 1 by 1. So there we go. We do that. Now we have the last one we can use is of these skills is increase a non wild die by 2. So we take this 4, turn it into a 6. Now we can decide if we're going to drink this potion to increase 2 dice by 1 each. So why don't we start placing them and see if we're going to end up needing that. Let's see, how much can we build up here? I think we can. So yeah, so why don't we drink one of the potions, increase 2 dice by 1 each. So we'll increase this 4 to a 5. Just increase this 2 to a 3. I don't know if it completely matters. Let's see what we get here for the blue. So we have 20. We just need a couple more. So we convert these 2, discard these 2 yellow dice, get the lower of the 2 values, which is a 3. So we're able to place this. Imagine we place this whole thing on the blue box. So we have 10, 23. That's enough. So we have, when we use that potion, we got to heal 1 damage. So the only box left uncovered is that 1 box there. So we take a damage, not enough to defeat the hero. We uncover these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that is enough to deal the 12th point of damage to the mud golem. So barely we were able to squeak out a victory over the mud golem with 1 health to spare. So thank you for joining me on this playthrough of One Deck Dungeon, and we will see you next time.